Our workshop segment in this issue is presented by Steve Cotroneo and Ron Pardini of CIFX. Ron and Steve are special effects artists whose credits include blockbusters like Men in Black, Independence Day, and Batman Returns. In this workshop, they'll teach you step by step how to create realistic blood using good old Knox gelatin from your local grocery store.
Today we're going to show you the creation of gelatin blood and different gelatin effects, how it's used to enhance certain products that you may already have, and how easy it is to bring it to life. It's not messy and still has a wet look, even in its solidified rubber state. All of the products used to create gelatin effects you can find at your local grocery stores and drugstores. Most of them are fairly inexpensive, and this is a great effect and keep the mess down to nothing.
I'm going to take you through the gelatin effects making process. We're going to start with these products that you can buy at any grocery store. You have food coloring, which makes up your colorant for the process, regular gelatin, and you want the powdered, unflavored, unsugared gelatin, regular water, tap water will do fine, and then glycerin, which makes up the bulk of it. The first product that you'll be using is glycerin. Glycerin makes up 80% of the gelatin blood effect. The second thing you'll need is gelatin. Gelatin makes up 15% of the product. Now these are rough percentages, so varying those can make your effects turn out different. For example, if you want a blood that's going to be stickier to the touch and maintain a stickiness, you add more water to it and back off on the glycerin a little bit. First thing we do is we take our 80% glycerin, and I've pre-weighed these out. We're having a total here of 167 grams. So we have 134 grams of glycerin. We have 25 grams, which is actually 2 packets of your Knox gelatin, and we have 8 grams of water. Take the glycerin and you take the water and you add the two of them together in your mixing cup. Make sure you get all the glycerin as much as possible. Now you're going to mix this thoroughly. The next phase is to add the colorant. If you want a blood that's going to be really bright, then you're going to use a lot of red. We prefer to use blood that looks a little bit more aged, so we like to add a little blue to it. We use food coloring because it's non-toxic. That way we can use the gelatin effects on people's faces or in their mouth. It still might stain fabrics. Even though it does clean up with water, it can be difficult to get the staining out. Now you'll notice the liquid here that we're pouring in can take the place of the water. If you want something that's not as sticky, then you might take away some of the water in lieu of some of the food coloring that you're adding. So we got a nice red color going here. You can see it's pretty hot right there. It's pretty bright. So I'm going to knock it down. 1 or 2 drops only of blue. If you go more than that, it'll turn too purple, and then it'll start to look black and really fakey. Now I'm going to take this mixture and we're going to go over to the microwave, and I'm going to microwave it for about 2.5 minutes, bringing it to a boil. You can also, in lieu of a microwave, you can do this over the stove. The stove gets you the benefit of having a more controlled heat, and you can keep your pot heated as you're mixing things into it. So that might be preferable, but for me, time is of the essence, so I'm going to use the microwave. This thing is bubbling right now. I took it to a full boil. At this point, this is extremely hot. Try not to get it on yourself because it will burn. You're going to gently add the gelatin into the mixture, and you're going to want to try to mix in all the little nuggets. It'll kind of want to bunch up and form a huge clump in there. You want to break up those clumps and get it as much into a regular gelatin looking mixture as possible. This is just like your normal Jell-O would be. You want to make sure everything's dissolved in there. And while you're doing this process the first time through, if you find that you're getting too many clumps and it's not going into solution well enough, you can always continue to heat it or reheat it in the microwave. At this point, we would set this aside for 24 hours and let it really cool off. If you need to quicken that amount of time, you can always stick it in a conventional refrigerator.
So now that you've learned how to create the gelatin blood, we want to get right into showing you some uses for it. Now after it's solidified, when you go to reheat it in the microwave, you want to watch the gelatin and make sure that it never boils over. You don't want a big mess. You just need to get it to that point where it just turns liquid. The hotter it is, the longer it's going to take for it to solidify, for it to actually set up and turn back into a nice gelatin rubber. We've got this prop here that we're going to use and show you how to enhance this with the gelatin blood. The good thing about the gelatin blood is it always keeps that wet look, which really keeps it realistic. We're going to pour a little bit of the liquid gelatin blood into the mouth, slosh it around in there a little bit, lie it back down on its side, get a little drip of blood coming out of the mouth there. We have an ear here that you could easily fill up with a little bit of blood and just let it run naturally down the contour of the face. Dab a little bit to the inside of the vampire bites, and eventually this will all solidify and turn back into the rubber gelatin, which is really nice. Let's say you liked the drip kind of where it is right now. This is where you could speed up the process and get it to solidify right where it is by using a fan to help cool it off, or even sometimes just blowing on it. You could actually get the drips to solidify right where you like them, and you'll get really good at the technique. When you're dealing with props and store-bought heads, you want to make them just a little bit nicer. We like to take a brush with our cup of gelatin and just start dabbing it into some of these deep spots here. For a finishing touch, just kind of drip a little along the edges. If you really want a nice puddle on there, let it ooze out onto your table or your prop or your walkway. You can really have some fun with it and learn some techniques. You can actually start stretching it, and you can really get some creative, almost sculpted looks with your gore. Now we're just going to show you some fun effects. Take a brush and just apply a little bit of the blood right onto the blade of this knife. We'll get both sides, and you could build it up thicker on the edge if you like. You can even create some drips off of the blade. You can actually get some of these drips to solidify, and it creates a really nice effect on there. Vampire scenes and the gothic scenes, sometimes just the bloody kitchen. We've seen goblets and glasses full of blood. Tip the glass so you get a little bit going up on one of the edge there, like somebody was drinking out of it. It really has a great look to it. It looks like a cup full of wet blood. It's going to be solidified, and you're going to have no hazard of spilling.
Next fun trick that we'd like to show you is how to use gelatin blood as a makeup effect, and that would be directly onto an actor. So here we have a sample actor with a quick and dirty makeup job on. We're going to add this blood to enhance the effect and make him look even spookier. First and most important, whenever using gelatin blood on a person, is you have to make sure when you heat it up that you test it to make sure it's not too hot. You do this by simply taking it and putting it on your friend's wrist or on your own wrist. If it's too hot on your wrist, then it's going to be way too hot on your face. This is really important because this stuff will retain the heat and it can cause burns, so you have to be careful when you use this. The gelatin blood is going to be a good blood to use because it'll gelify, it'll stay in the same position, and he'll be able to clean it up in the end in a much easier way. This is safe and non-toxic because we've used only food coloring. We haven't put pigments or paints or anything in there that could be damaging to the eye or to the mouth or whatever, but you still want to keep it out of your actors' eyes. They can put it in their mouths, they can spit it out, that's fine. If you want to keep your actor's costume clean, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to smock them before you do the application. Or if you have a costume that you want to include in this, you can put the costume on at this point in time and get the blood all over the costume to add to the effect. What we're going to do is a head wound here with some blood coming off the top. And basically all we do is we take a little bit of the Gelatin Effects blood, and you can just goop it on him a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to use a tool, a brush or a stick or something to really net it in the head, make it nappy. You can kind of use it to sculpt, make it look like there's an opening in the hair. You can see how it's dripping off really nicely. Now if it's going to drip down over the actor's eye, you're going to have him close the eye so that he doesn't get that into his eye. You can have him lean his head back a little bit, and then it can catch on the cheek and run down the cheek and the face. You can also do, if you want the vampire to have recently feasted, you can have it coming out the corner of the mouth or off the lips. Just let it hang there, or you can drag it down with a brush. Now your actor's going to be able to move his mouth. The blood will stay there. It won't smear all over him. It's not going to dissipate. You can also, at the end of the night, peel the entire piece off as one whole piece and put it back later for future nights. That's how it works on the face. And now it is time to see how easy the cleanup is. You grab the blood and you peel it off, and it is gone. So this concludes our segment on gelatin blood and gelatin effects. As you can see, it's fun and safe and easy to use, and it has many, many different applications.